on first because I think that's a hard act to follow, and then I'm a glass half full kind of girl. So what I realized is that now I can actually say that Teddy Abrams is my opening act. Just gonna add that to my resume now. I've been thinking a lot about what would I like to say to this wonderful group of esteemed leaders and colleagues. yesterday I was actually driving in. I've been out of town, and so I had some road trip time, and I was thinking through in my head, what would I say, what do I need to share with you all? And I want to let you know that in my head, this goes fantastically well. So if it doesn't, I think that's on you. Many other cities across the country have civic leadership programs. At 38 years old, the Leadership Louisville Center is arguably one of the oldest, but we are definitely one of the best. And I can say that and still hold on to a shred of humility, because when I say it, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Let me explain what I mean. If you are currently, I have a few wonderful board members who are here today, so if you're currently on the board, you get a hand raised for all my current board members. Thank you. Now leave your hands up, and if you've ever served on our board, add your hand to the mix, or if you are an alumni of one of our programs. So when I say I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, when I make that assertion, that's what I mean. We've had some really great support in the community from some amazing leaders, and we've done a whole lot to build that and leverage that support. And when I say that I think we're one of the best programs in the country, I want you to know that it's not just, we're not just a legend in my own mind. We actually, Center for Creative Leadership did a benchmarking study a few years ago where they looked at who are the best civic leadership programs in the country, and the Leadership Louisville Center was noted as one of the best. In addition to that, we get visits from across the country on almost a monthly basis. That kind of ticker tape down there at the bottom of that slide are just some of our recent visitors. They stretch from as far away as Denver and Texas to as close as Indy and Cincinnati. So we have a lot of really great programs that we love to host for our city, and we also love to share them across the country. For those of you that are not alumni yet, I want to share with you just a little bit about what it is that the Leadership Louisville Center does. What is our mission? That's our mission statement up there on the slide. I'm not going to read it to you. I'd rather tell you in my own words what it is that I think the Leadership Louisville Center does. I'm a student of history. I really like to study anthropology, and if you look at the history of humans and every major accomplishment that we have ever had as humanity, you will find two things, always two things. The first is this: you'll find somebody who found their passion, who realized that I just can't sleep until all of the children are fed. I just won't rest until all of the injustice is fixed. I simply will not sleep until this hideous disease has claimed its last victim. And that's the first thing you'll find, is someone who finds their passion and says, I will be the person who makes a difference. And that's wonderful, and we all know stories about one person who can make a significant difference. But I'm kind of an outcomes girl, and I'm looking for big, major change. And there's two things that were required for that, and the second is this. One, someone who finds their passion, and two, they get connected with people who share that same passion. When you have those two things, then you can achieve amazing outcomes for communities, for cities, for our country. And I think that that is what the Leadership Louisville Center does, is we help people figure out what are they passionate about and where would they want to invest their time, and then we help them connect to other people who share that passion. Interestingly, I also think that Rotary does those two things very well, which is one of the reasons I was really excited and grateful for the opportunity to come talk to you all, because I feel like this should be a sympathetic audience and really understand what it is that the Leadership Louisville Center is about. How we do that is a function of 5 core programs. That's one of the things that makes us different from other organizations in the country. Most of our peer groups have 1 or maybe 2 programs. We have 5 core programs. And I'm not going to be able to talk to you about all of them today. I've got a little bit that I want to focus on, but just to give you an overview for those of you that have not been through any of the programs. The 5 core programs are Focus, which is a 2.5-day this is the foundation. This is the Focus is about all the things that good community leaders need to know. Leadership Louisville is our flagship program. and very similar to programs in other cities. It's at 10 months, and it builds on the foundation. Here's all the things that good leaders have to know, and here's how all of these things connect. So if you drop a pebble in the pond here, the ripples that happen over here, understanding how all those things connect. And that helps us as community leaders make really good decisions, not decisions based in isolation. The next program is Bingham Fellows. We have a lot of good Rotarians that are Bingham Fellow alumni. And actually, Bingham Fellows is one of the reasons why we get visitors here in kind of a revolving door. A lot of times they're coming to find out about Bingham Fellows. It's unique in all the country. No one does a program anything like this. It is a year-long deep dive into one community issue, and Bingham Fellows are tasked with not just thinking about it and writing about it, but they're tasked with actually moving the needle. And our Bingham Fellows program has accomplished some really great things in the last few years. I'm not going to have time to talk to you about any of them today, but I'm hoping if this goes well, maybe you all will let me come back and talk to you about Bingham Fellows, or you'll come see me and we can talk about Bingham Fellows. The two programs that I want to focus on today are Ignite, which is our Young Professionals program, and Encore, which are our two newest programs. Ignite's about a 10-year-old program, and Encore we just started last year. So I'm going to focus mostly on those two programs. If we have time at the end, I want to talk just a little bit about Green Room, which is our newest endeavor. Green Room is a little different than our core programs because Green Room focuses on building individual leadership skills. And it's been a really exciting thing that we've been able to do with that lately. Okay, so let's talk about the Young Professionals program, the Ignite program. So our average age for Ignite is about 35 years old, which looks like roughly the demographic of this room, right? Okay. So I'm not here to recruit anyone for Ignite. This is not really our target demographic for that. The reason I want to talk about Ignite is not to recruit you, but I want you to know about the impact that Ignite is having, particularly because as we're engaged in service above self, think about how we can connect what you're doing in the community with what we're doing through our Ignite program. Ignite is really interesting because it's got two components. The first component, and each day, Ignite is a 7-month program, 1 day a month for 7 months. Each day of the Ignite course is owned by a different corporate citizen, and that company is responsible for creating the curriculum on that day. They take the things that they know about their company culture and the things that they instill in their employees, and in short order are able to introduce that to our Ignite participants. So for example, we spend a day at Brown-Forman, and they learn about personal brand. All the decisions that you make reflect on your brand and what do you want your brand to say. When we're at Young, we learn about achieving breakthrough results, which is their goal-setting strategy. It teaches you how to set really big goals and how to actually achieve them. So they're learning all of these things, and the curriculum in and of itself is really cool, and it gives you an opportunity to take a look behind the curtain. How many of you have ever wondered what would it be like to work at Brown-Forman or Young or somewhere else? This gives you a little sample. And the curriculum is fantastic, it's top-notch. When we get reviews from the individuals, one of the things that they say about their participation in Ignite is that it's transformational. And that word actually comes up repeatedly on our evaluations. And I think that this curriculum is exceptional, it's very good, but it is not quite transformational. So the next question is, well, how do you get from these program days that have really good curriculum to a transformational experience? That's the second piece of the Ignite Louisville puzzle. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Each Ignite participant is put in a challenge team, and their challenge team adopts a nonprofit project. This is a nonprofit that's kind of thought through some things that are on their laundry list of things they'd like to get accomplished, but they just haven't gotten to it yet. So you're in an Ignite team, and you've chosen your nonprofit, and on average, our Ignite teams give about 500 hours to their nonprofit. The contributed services is about $35,000. I like those numbers are good, but The thing that I like about the Leadership Louisville Center is that we have the capacity to be a multiplier, to aggregate all of the talent from your company and your company and your company and pull it together and take it from individual contributors to a symphony that works for our community. So on the next slide, take the 500 hours and the $35,000 worth of value for each group and think about this. This slide actually, in all of the letters there on the screen, you won't be able to read them all, but there's a few popped out that you might recognize. These are all the nonprofits that have had an Ignite team in the last few years. And if you changed all the letters on there to numbers and matched those up, it would start to look like about 27,000 hours of community volunteer service. It would look like about $2 million in contributed resources to those organizations. And that's what I love about these programs, is that they have significant capacity to influence and impact great change in our community with not just one organization, but all of these organizations. That's why my job is so cool, is because it's not just about one. Maybe I have trouble focusing. I need 15 different things at any given point in time, but this allows me and the Leadership Louisville Center to focus our energy across the spectrum of needs in our community. Okay, so I think numbers are important, and understanding that that's got a lot of bang for the buck in the community, but I think it's probably better for me to talk specifically about some outcomes so that you understand. When I talk about 500 hours of volunteer service and $35,000 worth of contributed resources, here are some examples of what I mean. Kentuckiana Refugee Ministries, one of the things that they do in our community is when we have refugees and they're settling here, they help make sure that their first apartment is a welcoming home. So they have a warehouse where they take in all your donations, and their warehouse has sofas and lamps and toaster ovens and mixing bowls. And the thing about their warehouse was that sofas and lamps and toaster ovens and mixing bowls were all just piled up together. And to get to the toaster oven, you might have had to lift the couch cushion to find it. Their project for Ignite was to organize that warehouse. So the Ignite team organized about 100 volunteers to come in and completely redo the warehouse and get them organized. And that's great, but one of the things that we judge them on is the sustainability of their project. So not only did they go in and organize the warehouse, but they created a whole new intake system backed up by a new database that would allow them to understand what exactly is in their warehouse, where can I get it, so that I can turn around and put it back out into the community in the way that it was intended. If that wasn't enough, then in their spare time, they also got a truck contributed to Kentucky Refugee Ministries to make pickup and distribution easier for that organization. So the quality of what they're doing, the work that they're doing in our community is really amazing. With YMC Safe Place, they were looking at elevating their brand and making sure that people really understand what they do. And they specifically wanted to target their most important demographic, which is endangered youth, so that those kids knew that what Safe Place could do for them when they found themselves in trouble. And the Ignite team said, okay, well then what we need to do is we need to focus on social media, and they completely revitalized the YMC Safe Place social media platform. They did new marketing messages, videos, and again, this is about sustainability. So they also secured an AmeriCorps Vista for them to actually execute on all of the new marketing strategies and to keep the social media presence going. Not just for 1 year, but they secured funding to be able to host an AmeriCorps program, Vista, there for 3 years. When I think about the results that we've had with this is when I start to think about the promise that our next generation has. We talk a lot about the rising tide that lifts all ships, and I do believe that the rising tide lifts all ships. But when I look at the results that our Ignite program has had, I think that this next generation might be the rising tide. they might be the rising tide that lifts all ships. And I know we give millennials a little bit of a hard way to go, and each generation has their flaws. But when I think about what they're accomplishing in service of the greater good, it's really inspiring. And they do this over and over again. Every year we host a graduation where the teams have to stand up and present. And every year at graduation, it's my favorite day to be the president of the Leadership Louisville Center because the outcomes are just really outstanding. And that, when I say that the evaluations come back and they say this experience was transformational, that's why. The curriculum is great, but because they have to apply it to a real world challenge, it actually makes it sticky for them, and they actually use it as part of their own skill set. And because they're using it in service of the greater good, it gives them an incredible sense of purpose that ties them to this community, that makes them feel like this was a worthy endeavor. And that's how we get marks on our evaluations that say this was transformational. I want to ask you all a question, because we're all here embracing the idea of service above self. So think about the organizations that you work with, whether you are on the board or a volunteer or you contribute financially. Does anyone know an organization that could benefit from having an Ignite team? Fantastic, because what I really need to do is I need to build that pipeline of good organizations that we work with. As we expand the Ignite program, we have more and more opportunity to bridge that gap between all of our next generation of corporate leaders and make those connections that help them figure out what they're passionate about and to find people who share that same passion. The next program that I want to talk about is our Encore program. A few years ago we were doing some strategic planning, and at the Leadership Louisville Center the things that were in our plan looked like how do we engage people, and there's some things in there that have to do with making sure that we're welcoming to diverse audiences. I'm really proud of some of the progress that we've made there. We were actually Louisville Urban League's champion of diversity for this year. So I'm really excited about that. We have some things in there that are about how we inspire people to serve in the community. And then the last piece of the puzzle was looking at how we sustain the fire that we lit in all of our alumni. We have several thousand alumni that have gone through. And one of the things that the board was talking about was all of the baby boomers that are transitioning towards retirement. And the board thought that there were some great opportunities there. At the same time, I also had been approached by Ken Middleton. Hi, Ken. And he was saying that he felt like the Leadership Louisville Center could play a really great role in harnessing all of the wisdom of the baby boomers as they transition out of the current roles that they're in. And so we started thinking, okay, well, there's something there. And we went to figure out if there was a model that we could steal from another city and bring it here. And the thing that we found is that there wasn't one. Not one that we liked anyway, so we built one from scratch. That quote on there is talking about how Chris Herman, his experience with Ignite exceeded his expectations. There are 3 expectations that we found that were missing from programs across the country that we wanted to cover, that we wanted to make sure our program had. These are the 3 things that we found were missing from the opportunities that are provided in every other city. The first thing is this, time commitment is a really important issue. So when we were working with Ken and the steering committee, the thing that we were finding out is that there are a lot of other programs out there that said, hey, as you retire, we can work on finding you a second career in a nonprofit organization, and you can be the development director or the director of a nonprofit. And we were finding things that were short-term, 2-hour volunteer opportunities. We didn't find anything in the middle that said, hey, I don't want a full-time career, but I can do more than just show up at the event and hand out flyers. So we were looking for something that allowed baby boomers to come and go and in and out as their flow wanted, which allowed them to still spend the summer in Michigan or the winter in Florida and rotate in and out of this program. The second thing that we were looking at that other opportunities didn't have is executive level skills. They wanted something that was more exciting than come hand out pamphlets, come be part of our donor phone-a-thon. hang streamers for us before the big event. They wanted things that looked like, hey, I was a significant executive and I've got wisdom to contribute. So we were looking for projects that were at that level, at a strategic thinking, critical thinking kind of level to really capitalize on their wisdom. The third thing was we were looking for something that was collaborative. The feedback that we got was, hey, now that I'm retired from my first career, I miss my peers, I miss my colleagues, I miss that opportunity to interact over a project that is meaningful. And so we wanted to build something that was collaborative. The Encore program does those things. It takes into effect a modest amount of time so that it can be meaningful, but not so much time that you can't still come and go as you like. Executive level skills and exciting, interesting projects, and collaborative. And that's what we put together for Encore Louisville. In the first year, Encore Louisville was able to serve 19 nonprofits. Estimated value given to each one is about $5,400. And then, again, I like multiplication. So the total estimated value is about $102,000 worth of contributed service back within their very first year. There's a list of some of the nonprofits that Encore worked with, but just to give you a couple of examples, I think, let's see, Heather Huddleston is the director of school choice scholarships, and they were helping her with some strategic level thinking. They also helped with the YMCA as they were looking at a merger between the Southern Indiana and the greater Louisville area. So these are the kinds of things that Encore is doing. And again, I'll ask you the same question. As you're out serving the community, do you know of, are you passionate about an organization that could really use some help from an Encore team? Because I'd love to build a pipeline. Right now, applications are open for Encore, so if you know of a good nonprofit, I need to get their application by July 8th and would love to have them. Encore started as an opportunity for us to engage our alumni, but we also are welcoming and we want to get to know lots of people who might be interested in this. So you'll see up there, there's a list of a lot of friendly faces, Rotarians, and people that you know that are currently in Encore. And if you're interested, we'd love to have you. If you're not an alumni, then we have this worked out where you can go through our short program, the 2.5-day focus program, and then come do Encore. Okay, so I have about a minute left, I think, and the last thing I'll mention to you is that the Leadership Green Room is our newest endeavor, and it is an opportunity for us to build leadership skills among the individuals so that they use those to move our community forward. Good leaders equals good outcomes for our community. The thing that's coming up is the thing that I wanted to mention to you because it's very interesting, it's very cool. We wanted to find some of the very best training that you can get out in the country and bring it here to Louisville so that you don't have to get on a plane to experience really amazing professional development. There's a program that was born in Google that's called Search Inside Yourself. I think Search Inside Yourself is a little bit silly name, but if you're Google, Search Inside Yourself makes a lot of sense. So Search Inside Yourself is actually coming here to Louisville through the Leadership Louisville Center to do a professional development workshop around mindfulness and emotional intelligence. If that sounds interesting to you, then we'd love to have you mark your calendar for that. The thing that has been my really great joy at the Leadership Louisville Center is just the amazing caliber of people that we get to work with. Every day I'm surrounded with a fantastic staff, a talented board, alumni from our programs who are contributing to the advancement of our community, and it is really a good gig. I want to thank you for having me here, and thank you for your service to community, because I do believe in the rising tide that lifts all ships, and I do believe that that tide has to be created in each one of us individually, and so the opportunity to be at the Leadership Louisville Center where we have the opportunity to impact that rising tide and to multiply that and to have great impact in our community is really an honor. So So thank you very much for your time.
We've got a few minutes for questions. If anyone has a question to ask Cynthia, I have one, my first up. So who picks these Ignite projects when all these nonprofits come?
Yes.
Is that done internally, and what's the criteria of that?
Yeah,
How do you filter that?
We have these great alumni who've been through the programs and probably know better than anyone what makes a good nonprofit proposal. So with Encore, we have a steering committee of alumni who look through the proposals and say, oh, this would be a great one. With Ignite, it's the same thing. We have alumni who look through the programs and decide. And really what they're looking for is, with Ignite, our young professionals, they really want to win the challenge, and they're looking for an opportunity to have an impact. So when they rate these applications from the nonprofits, they're saying, hey, can we actually do something that's going to wow the judges and really make a huge impact in our community? That's kind of the bar.
That's great. That's fantastic. Any questions from the floor? Because I know we're hitting 1 o'clock. If not, Cynthia, thank you so much.